So, brother and mom about to go to bed. I came back home pretty late. I took my sacks with us on Friday. Didn't get back till about 2 hours ago. Just got done playing. By no means means that I play a lot. I didn't play for like a week, and that really made us upset. And I gotta say, just like coming back on it now after the class on Friday, I was really moaning on Friday, and I realised that it's like a mental thing, you know. You gotta play a lot. That's not the point of the video. Um, I'm just gonna finish cleaning this, put it away while I record. Kill two birds, one stone. I gotta do some stuff on the desk as well. And yeah, uh, I did do a video yesterday on Valentine's. It's just I was too busy with my girlfriend. What a lie. What a lie. No, I was at a friend's house and the Wi-Fi wasn't really working. And by the time we left the house, we were on the train going to Durham. And when we were in Durham, I just didn't think about the video because I knew it was like pending, but I didn't care for it. So technically, I did a video yesterday. Um, they're gonna start yapping, so I'm gonna pause it. Late night yaps. Um, so I I started writing in the journal before about nature, really. It was pretty much an idea of like some Thoreau esque. Somebody got us a book today. I'll show that. Really nice gift. But if you can hear them, by the way, they're just having a laugh. In recent years, man's need for nature has become more and more apparent. That type of stuff, right? And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll come on and I'll do some like eco thing with the video. Why not? Eco type shit. And I was all well and good for it until I got a message from a friend saying, um, "I'm curious about how to start writing. We should meet sometime and talk about it." And I was like, "Okay." And he was talking about and not about his business on the line, on literally online, but just talking about how. What are you on the highway? Talking about how for him it doesn't quite go onto the paper how I explained it, right? He was like, no, that's not how mine works in my head. So okay. So I thought in terms of advice and stuff, I'm not the one to give it because I'm not even a shit writer. I'm a novice. I'm a novice who would like to be good. Give us 10 years until I'm able to give good advice. And by that time, hopefully, I'll just enjoy the process myself, and I'll know what the right thing is to say because the right thing to say would probably be something along the lines of like start with the main idea, start writing a bad first draft and then go restructure it, or what if it's that bad and then if it's not, don't restructure it as much and just sort of tweak it, you know. Um, but I think you get better at it as you go on, and the structure will probably get better as you go on. But first time around, structure will be a bit bad. Um, book on a slight tangent. I got this. Shine Levels, John White. Back pretty much described it as like a British Thoreau, so put this in the nature books, and I'll be excited to read this when I get around to it, which will be a while, but it'll be when I'm going through my whole nature thing. Probably when I'm writing something naturey. And yeah, I thought of just wanted to talk about this. The way that I had said it was that you kind of just have to have a key theme, right? And that key theme, you sort of follow that and try to get that on paper. Like, to me, the key theme was that I've been seeing a lot of TikToks recently. I have friends who send some TikToks, and he's been sending a lot of hopecore, but over the past 4 or 5 months, it's been a lot of, and even before that, but it was a bit more sparse. I think that one might have been his personal thing though. Before, actually, no, it was a while before. To be fair, it's been a while.
when I think about it, like it's been a while since I've been getting a lot of these naturey TikToks and Instagrams and stuff like that. And I think that my idea was, okay, we seem to be trying to get back out to nature with the very item that sort of keeps us indoors. So I thought I want to write about that. And I think that's the idea. You sort of take it, right? You take it. And I know when Adrian Tarkovsky, I've been watching some of his interviews recently. Watch them because they're really good. He talked about how he's, you know, his writing, and he had a lot of complex things like the One Big Lie, um, and so many other things. I'm like, just watch his. Just watch his. Be a waste of time to watch mine. You know, to me it was like I felt he was right, and maybe my stuff's gonna sound like it's interpreted in my way, and it is, but his is just obviously a little inspo for a video. It's pretty much the message reason why I'm saying this. That you just get that one thing you want to do, right? Like for me, when I think of a story, it's like, well, I want to write about like a yeti. I just want to write a story where a yeti is involved. And so you sort of get to that point where you get to the yeti, right? No matter where it is in the story, you get to that point, and then after you get to that point, you're like, well, what do I do when the yeti's there? You know, you catch my drift. With the overdose story, it was like, well, how do I get him to overdose? You know, I kind of just took the main point of the story and just said, how do I get there, right? I'm realizing now I had that idea of making a cycle, and you see someone overdose, tries to stop, gets back on, dies. A little bit more complex and longer, but you know, I thought that was like the easiest, you know, that little 4 point circle thing. And I've got my ideas in my book. I'm still reading, so I haven't wrote in a while. But yeah, I'm in the midst of that reading. And once I finish the little bit more of the reading, maybe in a week, next week, I'll start writing again. So next week I'll start a draft of the Yeti and reread and go through that. And probably in a couple of days into that week, I'll start the Billy story, and I'll go through some rewrites because I think I've got about 3,500 words of that I want to do better at because it's not good. But yeah, the point is I just sort of really wanted to do something in a story, and that's sort of like the way you try to go at it, because at the end of the day, no matter what you do with your chapter structures and so on, you're going to go from the beginning to the middle to the end. And I think as long as you sort of keep that, even if it's a little muddly pattern, right? As long as you, with the Billy story, the idea is the overdose at the beginning and the overdose at the end. You know, even there, it's obviously like narratively you got a beginning and end, but like structurally, if you think about going back and rereading it, some literature little Google could go could go back and say, oh man, it's like flipped in it, whatever. But yeah, the point is, you'll get there naturally if you sort of just want to get there. In my opinion, at least. Um, and I'm thinking more along the lines of like, not as in Steinbeck, mid mid 500 pages in, thinking to himself, you know, it's the hardest thing. This is my masterpiece. I'm gonna kill myself. But I'm just more or less thinking on terms of like just everyday folk, everyday folk writing. You wake up and today you're gonna write, and eventually you want to do a story that a guy overdoses in. So you start writing how you get the guy to overdose. So he does drugs. That means he's sort of characteristically like this, but he's not like other druggies. So he does this, or like another druggie, he does this, and like people I've saw, he does this, and you sort of make a character. Who else do I need? Well, I need these characters, and how do they serve the plot? So I need them to be like this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and okay, where are they? Where do they go? What happens when they're there? Where does that lead? What does that lead to? And so on and so forth, till I get him to the place where he overdoses, and the story ends. And it's really dumbed down and complex, dumbed down from complex, there's so many like theory books which I hate. Like honestly, I've got to say this. Stephen King's memoir, The Craft, isn't obviously that much of a theory book, but oh, that was a boring book. In my opinion, I fucking hated it. Because I just a memoir on a lad who's sounds so ignorant. A memoir of a coked up American isn't exactly like a sober religious minded Geordie, is it? Like it's just not the same. So I just couldn't relate, and I don't really relate to like just general theory books, right? Like reading poetry, some of the Norton stuff. Like I don't know. Right there, the David Lodge and James Wood stuff. They were right. They were right. Like and fine. But it was always like when you look at a theory book and they start explaining something, you're like, oh, how do I do that? And then you realize your regular writing is just what they're saying in theory. It's just you don't fucking get the theory, so you don't understand that you're doing it already. And I understand you're gonna understand theory. Yeah, I get that. But theory to me, I think it just adds like a really hefty layer of gunk on a writer's mind and more doubt and more despair. What you do is through your education, go through that theory. Fair. But there's a time and a place, right? Because you're reading for research, your theory work for research, you know, your even your plotting and stuff like that. That's all different to when you sit down and you craft. It's different. You think, what wood do I need? What tools do I need? How much time will it take? What cuts do I need to cut? Where do I assemble it? Structure. And all sorts. And then okay, well, what about your drafting, right? What about your burring, your varnishing and all of that, and your gloss, your whatever, your honey wax shit at the end, whatever you want to use, and then eventually you have a table, right? If you do that in the story metrics, to me, it's like when sort of, you do your research, you do your theory, you do your reading, you do your plotting, you do your structure, you do your, you know your genre, you know your tone, you know your narrator, like all that stuff, and it's so different. All of it's so different because I'm in that space, right, where I'm in the midst of all of that, and I was in the midst of all that with Yeti as well. But the difference between that and sitting down and writing, whew, helps, by the way. It helps, especially structure with that Yeti stuff. It helped me think, okay, well, this allows me to put more of emphasis on the inner city, not the inner city, but this city, right? I can describe the city a bit more, which that contrast to the snow is quite nice. And, it helped me sort of, which I think even now I've still got to do a little bit more. Yeah, and with this Billy stuff, it's like, it's just, all of that stuff is really going to bog a person down because ultimately your writing's not good enough. Just be real, right? Your writing's not good enough, so eventually you'll have to come back on a second draft. And if you're going to have to do so much before you can even start the project, that's going to make you go crazy. So I think in some ways we just have to get good at the routine, good at it, just keep doing it over and over again. Your research, your knowledge. Like, to me nowadays, when I start writing, I barely even think about narrator. I barely even think about tone or anything like that. I just say, I want to write this, I want this to happen, I want to be this. And all of a sudden, it's because I've learned to know what I gravitate towards, which in 10 years, when I look back at this video, I'll be like, nah, bruv, like, you weren't that good. But, I'm not okay. I'm omniscient. I'm going with this tone. I'm going with this voice. I'm using this diction, which means I'm going to use this language. And naturally, I feel like I'm going to be speaking like this as a speaker, and the paragraphs sort of seem to flow and work themselves out, right? And with that, I think then the structure is like, okay, I want this to happen, I want that to happen, I want that to happen. So that means I'm able to just chuck them all in. Which, can I just say, all of this stuff's nice, and it's nice because it's worked on short stories and novellas and all sorts. But when you are, by the way, when you are coming up to your Easter Beating, biggest advice I could give, leave that till later. I'm not good enough to write my Easter Beating yet, which is bollocks because I don't know what the fuck John is yapping about. Right? Unless when I read this, it's an absolute masterpiece. Like it's like a, I still think that his other stuff is just like 10 out of 10 regardless. I don't know what he's yapping about. He's goated. But, you sort of just have to care for it and love your story, and I think eventually you'll nurture it, right? So through that process of always thinking, how can I do better, or how can I nurture my story, and so on, and so on, and so on. Through all of the theory, through all the goofy shit, and all the things you didn't work out, and all the things you learned in the process, and maybe you're 3 drafts deep, and maybe you need to start again. But whatever it is, you'll eventually realize, okay, I'm getting better and better. The story's getting better and better. And then hopefully you finish it. And when you finish it, you get to go back and have a look, and hopefully you get to publish it. I hope you get to publish your story. And the next one will be a little bit easier because you have experience, right? And that's the biggest thing to realize for any author, any writer. Any advice that I think I could give at this stage is advice that I have to give to myself, which is what the videos are about, right? Advice for me. Remember that you're young. Steinbeck, I think, didn't do his first till he was 30 something. You look at Bukowski and his struggle. You look at Tarkovsky and his struggle. 15 years, I said he said it was. You sort of look at all these authors and how long it took them to get published. And maybe there's some lucky bastards out there that took them 5 minutes. But I'm not one of them lucky bastards. I'm not going to win the Northern Writers Awards and have all sorts of eyes and people look at us and all of that. And I think I've accepted that. Oh, 1 minute. Yeah. Lost my train of thought. Right, laundry's done. I think I've sort of just accepted. I'm not going to win a Northern Writers Award. I'm going to get up my masters, and I'm just going to start writing. And I will obviously send it out to the Northern Writers Award, and I'll start something. I'll start a big project as soon as I'm gone, right? And I'll start to write that, and I'll hand it out to all sorts of publishers, all sorts of companies, and agents. And I'll do all of that. But I think I've accepted, and every sort of young author has to accept. It's not going to be handed on a silver platter, and if it is, be wary. Whatever it is, try to look at your work and try to say, all right, like, do I just like this? And in my opinion, size of the books. I want to write a book this size. I want to write a book this size. I want to write a book. I want to write a book. And not because I have a superficial reason of I want to write a book, but I want to write. I want things to be set in paper. I want stories to be told. I want my heart to be said. I have a love for the craft. It's a highly developed reason, and everybody should have their own highly developed reason to why they're ready to fail over and over and over again. But because in the act of failing, they're doing what they want, right? If you think about it, right, like the act of a runner getting better is run until he can't anymore, and then the next day run until he can't anymore, but a little bit more, and run until he can't run anymore, but a little bit more. And you get my point. That's the thing, and the advice to write and the advice to all that sort of stuff is just, you're young. 30's young. 30's young. 30's too young to stop writing, even if you've not been published. 30's far too young.
whole point is that it's like because you want to do it, right? And there's no more beautiful reason on this world than the fact that you want to do it, right? Obviously, I'm chucking it out there because it needs to be mentioned, because unfortunately, certain people do certain things and they ruin that statement for everybody else. If you want to eat babies and have your bank account be bald, and you want to fly out a whole bunch of celebs and blackmail them and use pizza in your emails, no, that's not the beautiful thing. Now that I've got that out of the way, I'll end it and I'll conclude the video with: to have that thing that you want to do in life, to be a farmer, to be a writer, to be a mother, to be a father, to be a painter, to be a blacksmith, to be a runner, to be an archer, to be whatever, to be my mom and my brother, doing all of this at night, even though they're both about to go to bed, and the things they have arguing about, they're just arguing over the sake of it, to be fair. Even if it's that, do it, right? Do it, because you make my house feel lively, and when you do your thing, you make my world feel lively, and you make your own world feel lively, like things are happening. And it's best for things to happen than you to regress out of fear and doubt and so on, because at this point, and I know I'll make another video at some point in the future, but at this point, fuck off, please. The doubt, the comparison, all of that, like, can you just write a book because you want to write a book? Can you just write that? Like can you take that idea and just do that? Because, like, alright, that's cool. Do it. Don't even tell me about the idea. I don't hear about the idea. Go do it. Just go write.